Hello friends, how's it going? I'm Nick, Rockley Smile, and this is my YouTube channel. It's lovely to see you, I hope you're well. I wanted to take a few moments to explain what exactly has been going on here in this space, and what my goal is from now and going forward, and what it has been for all these years. So if you don't know me, I am an art advocate, an artist myself in some capacity, or I have been in and out over many years. I've been a game fan since I've been a very small child, and I've taken great notice of this industry in all forms, small and large. And I wanted to use my platform as a sort of a position to spread interest and awareness of art in all its forms, but specifically as it regards to video games. And I think that it's a connection a lot of folks haven't really completely put together in a lot of respects, and I don't mean that in any kind of condescending way. It's just not an association we normally make, that video games are an expression of art in a very literal and formal sense, the same way you can go to a gallery and see paintings hanging on a wall. Video games are another format of that. So I've tried to take over many years, and I've been doing YouTube and Twitch now for, I think, something like 12 years. I've tried to take an approach to make that more accessible, to try to share my own enthusiasm with others, to try to give people an inroad why they might find art interesting if they've never really been engaged with it in any meaningful way. And it's not to preclude that you would be normally. I mean, you can go most of your life and not really give it that much time if it's not something that's been part of your life since the beginning. I've also wanted to use my platform in a regard to try to help smaller indie devs find an audience. I've wanted them to be able to use me as a conduit, in essence, to find their own audience, to be able to tell people about their game. It's a really difficult world to exist in, especially in the late-stage capitalist world that we live in right now. And it's been for a long time, although it's gotten better, at least with regard to indie game awareness. But I happened to start this back in like 2012 or so, and all of that infrastructure has come tremendously far since then. You'll find a lot more opportunities, and in some cases less opportunities, depending on what you're trying to do. With regard to spreading awareness, there's more YouTubers and content creators than there ever were, and there's more tools with which to get involved with making games than there ever was. But there's also more games now than there ever were, so getting discovered in the midst of that is still very difficult. So the challenge has completely changed in the course of time that I've been doing this. So I've been trying my best to try to show as many games as I can in some capacity, to talk about them with critique in mind, in the way that I know how to introduce aspects of my own enthusiasm and interest, to try to show and highlight specifically what about some of these games makes them so exceptional and interesting. And every game is really an artist's story. Every time you play a game like this, every one of these games is somebody's specific insight into their thought process, what's meaningful to them, what matters to them in their life, and in the context of the world in a greater sense. There's a tremendous amount to unpack in all of these things, and I haven't necessarily done due diligence on all of them per se, but I have had this in mind the whole time through. And so I've hoped that if you've watched me for any major length of time, that some of that has become evident, and through doing what I do, that maybe a few people have gained enthusiasm or appreciation, or found a game that they didn't think they'd like as a result. So that's been my major goal over all these years. And if you've noticed, the YouTube channel has certainly had more going on in recent days. I kind of was not overly diligent in the last several years, and that was owing in large part due to some personal... I'm going to say it's something akin to trauma, that I didn't want to keep looking at my YouTube channel because of all the things that had happened with regard to the NLSS and all of that. It felt like I ruined everything, and I just didn't want to acknowledge it, and so I kind of ran away from it, to be fair. So I've been trying to take measures to correct that in some capacity, and I've been uploading as much as possible from my Twitch channel, which I have been doing this whole time. Like, even though I haven't been uploading on YouTube, Twitch has still been going with no major interruptions, aside from when I moved to Ireland, which is another thing I did. And that was back in the end of 2021. I've been here now for a few years, although I did go back for part of 2022 to finish the move up. That was really the only time I'd taken any major break from streaming, and it was just because of all of that disruption. So I've been trying to make things right in the capacity that I've been getting things moved over to Twitch from Twitch rather, to try to get YouTube in a place where if you missed all of this stuff, well, maybe you can go back and see lots of things you might have not known I did. Granted, I am aware that that is a lot of content. I've been posting 1 to 3 hour long videos multiple times a day, and that is just sort of an unfortunate necessary evil, I suppose. Evil? I don't know. It depends on your perspective on it. Maybe you like it. But I know a lot of folks don't, and a lot of folks have unsubscribed, and I literally asked for people to do that, specifically because I know a lot of folks had subscribed just as a gesture of goodwill for when I was on the NLSS, and I do appreciate that they did that. It was a nice thing, and it was helpful. But honestly, the slow degradation of subscriber numbers over all of those years of people realizing, oh, he's a guy that I don't really want to watch anymore, and then hitting unsubscribe, it's contributed to a daily sort of drain on my mental faculties, of the fact that every time I looked at my analytics, I would see another like -10, -20. And so I could never really build up any momentum or gain any sort of growth that felt like I was working towards something on the YouTube front. So the hope was, if I posted a ton of videos, everybody that forgot I existed would remember and make that judgment of whether or not they wanted to stay subscribed. And if they didn't, that's fair enough. If they did, that's awesome. The goal is to ramp things up going forward, and I have a sort of multi-step plan for that. Step 1 was to get all the stuff I could moved over from Twitch to YouTube, and although I haven't posted most of it, I've gotten nearly 300 videos moved over. And I'm still missing a couple of major series I haven't done yet, because they're going to be a whole tremendous undertaking, like the Persona 5 series, which was 100 hours worth of a game playthrough. I'm going to probably get to that eventually, but it's not quite as high a priority as the many, many, many little things that I wanted to highlight. So those have mostly all gotten over to YouTube now, and they've all been edited, and they've all been thumbnailed, and they're basically ready to go. I just need to add descriptions to a couple of them. So that's one step. Another step is going to be, I'm going to launch eventually a Patreon. I've had a Patreon that I have not launched. It's been in the works for like 3 years. I've had it there just sitting, and I've really been hesitant to do this. I didn't really want to go to a Patreon. I felt like it was another platform asking for money, and I didn't really know if I could potentially deliver the things that I wanted to deliver with it. I don't know still if that's the case, but I may do it because I think it's probably necessary at this point. I've always been of the mindset that I didn't really want to be the type to take on lots of sponsorships, or to be really specifically sort of money-focused in my approach to things. I don't really tend to run ads where I can avoid it. I know YouTube runs ads on my videos, but on Twitch, I mean, I don't tend to run ads at all over there, and I don't really do much aside from take codes for games from companies like Green Man Gaming and that. But that's about it. Other than that, I exist entirely off of people's generosity. When people want to subscribe to my Twitch channel, when people occasionally will cheer or send tips via PayPal and that. And that is something I've had the privilege to be able to subsist off of explicitly due to the numbers in my audience. And when I was a member of a larger community of streamers, that just sort of worked. And over time, you know, the audience has thinned out, as you would expect. And my ability to pay my bills has gotten a lot harder. And so I think I do have to take on some of these other things, and I have to try to ramp things up in some capacity. And the confronting of the YouTube side of things wasn't explicitly due to that, but it was in part. It was also me just sort of processing out a whole bunch of stuff in my personal life that I had to eventually confront and deal with. And I had taken way too long to do it, I'll be honest. But I have at least made some headway in that front, and hopefully I will continue to do so over, you know, the next year plus. So yeah, step 2 is to try to get a Patreon going, and in part of step 2 is to also try to get more YouTube-focused content specifically just for you guys here on YouTube. and maybe even do some occasional live streams on YouTube, because it isn't in my contract that I can do that, just not at the same time as Twitch. I can't co-stream on both at the same time, but I can stream to just YouTube or just Twitch. So that's another factor I'd like to get in going again. If there's enthusiasm, and that's the thing, a lot of this is going to hinge on how things go over the next year or so, whether YouTube remains a priority, but I am going to give it a go, and as you've seen, I have tried to be quite dedicated with it, at least in this first month of really kicking things off. I do apologize, I haven't been more focused in terms of just speaking to you directly. I've been doing some posts occasionally where I'll leave a note and get feedback on that, but I haven't just made a video. And I think part of that was just because I wasn't really sure if I could commit to this or not. I have a lot of depression stuff, I have a lot of anxiety stuff, and I've really had low energy a lot of the time, and it's been a struggle just to be able to stay on Twitch as consistently as I could. And I do miss a day every so often, like, you know, every other week or so. But I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to make it clear that I'm trying my best. So hopefully, if you're a fan, if you've been a fan for a while, I appreciate you very much, that you'll stick around and maybe see where things can go. With a little bit of luck and a bit of support, hopefully we can kick things up to a level that maybe it was never able to be kicked up to in the old days of, like, 2013 to 15, maybe 16 even, when I was really focused specifically just on YouTube, and then Twitch kind of took my focus away. I think the ideal world is to have a little bit of both, but I didn't always have the capacity or energy really to handle both. And now the idea of adding a Patreon, which is another thing you kind of have to maintain, does worry me, hence all the reticence around this topic. But I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try my best. That's all I can do, right? If it fails, it fails. But I do appreciate that you've at least been mostly pretty receptive to the fact that I've tried to get some more stuff going on over here. And thanks very much, of course, for all of you folks that have been absolutely unbelievably dedicated, sticking around for like 10 plus years through all of the highs and lows that have been my streaming and YouTube careers, in whatever capacity you want to describe those things. So I hope to continue advocating for indie games and art in a general sense. I hope to keep showing you games that you've maybe not seen or heard of, and have a discussion about them on whatever level you think is relevant. I'm perfectly happy to get into all levels of philosophical debate and any kind of thing that a developer wants to introduce into the conversation. So I hope to continue doing that for years to come, and I do need your help with that. So please, I hate to say it, but leave likes and stuff. It's really cool if you do that. I don't want to have to say it, but I have to say it. All the YouTube crap, honestly, it's so tiring hearing it everywhere all the time. But it's true, though, that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? The nail gets the hammer, and all the other idioms of that. So I have to say it. I wish I didn't. And maybe that's my pledge. If things get into a position where I don't need to say it anymore, I'm quite happy to subsist on a very small amount of income, to be honest. I'm not trying to get rich or famous or powerful. I don't care about any of that. I just want to be able to pay my bills and keep making stuff for you guys as best as I can. And so if I can get to a level where I'm not thinking about money all the time and worried about income, I'm quite happy to not say those things, to not take sponsorships, to not make it a fuss, to put it in your face, to always try to grow things and get bigger and more and more and more and more. And eventually everyone burns out. And I've burned out before too, so I understand how it is. But I'm not here to make an empire, right? I just want to get by. And I don't think very many YouTubers seem to look at it that way anymore. It's always trying to get bigger and stronger and grow to endless extents. I mean, it would be super cool to have 100,000 subscribers. That would be great. I nearly had it at one point. It was like 92 point something. But you know, time passed, things changed. It is what it is. All we can do now is try and move forward in a positive way as much as possible. And, you know, fingers crossed that things take a good turn. And hopefully I'll be able to keep showing you cool stuff. All right, that's been my update. I hope you're all well. Thanks very much for watching. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.